Picture this. You're running a textile factory in Mumbai. Orders are pouring in, life is good. Then boom! Overnight, your biggest customer just became 50% more expensive to reach. Your competitors are celebrating, while you're calculating layoffs. This isn't fiction. This is happening right now to millions of Indians. One political decision in Washington just put India's economic miracle on life support. But here's the twist. What looks like economic warfare might actually be the setup for the deal of the century, or the trap that destroys everything India has built. I'm about to show you the high-stakes poker game that could make or break the world's most populous nation. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why India's next move could reshape global economics forever. Let me paint you a picture of how quickly everything changed. August 2025. While most of the world was enjoying summer holidays, President Trump dropped an economic nuclear bomb on India. Not one, but two rounds of tariffs. First, a 25% reciprocal tariff. Then, and this is where it gets brutal, an additional 25% penalty tariff. Do the math with me. That's 50% extra cost on Indian goods entering America. 50%. Imagine you're selling a beautiful hand-woven textile that costs $100. Suddenly, your American buyer has to pay $150. Your Thai competitor selling the same quality? Still $100. Who do you think gets the order? But here's what makes this story even more dramatic. This wasn't just about trade. This was about geopolitics. See, America accused India of something that would make any sovereign nation's blood boil. Buying discounted Russian oil and supposedly funding Putin's war machine. India's response? We buy oil from whoever gives us the best deal. Our 1.4 billion people need energy, not lectures. The damage was immediate and devastating. Textile exporters in Tamil Nadu started cutting shifts. Jewelry manufacturers in Rajasthan watched orders evaporate. Seafood exporters in Kerala saw their American dreams turn into nightmares. But just when it seemed like this trade war would escalate into economic Armageddon, something unexpected happened. To understand whether India is walking into peace or a trap, we need to decode what each player actually wants. Because in geopolitics, what people say they want and what they actually want are often completely different. India's real agenda. On the surface, India wants the tariffs gone, obviously. But dig deeper and you'll find something more complex. India is playing a much longer game. Prime Minister Modi's government has three non-negotiables. Energy independence, they will not let America dictate where India buys oil. Agricultural sovereignty, Indian farmers will not be sacrificed for trade deals. And strategic autonomy, India bows to no superpower. But here's the clever part. India also sees this crisis as an opportunity. While fighting American tariffs, they're quietly building trade bridges with Europe, Southeast Asia, and Africa. It's like being forced to diversify your investment portfolio when you are too comfortable with just one stock. America's power play. Now, America's game is more complex than it appears. Sure, Trump talks about fair trade and protecting American workers, but look at the timing. Look at the pressure points. This isn't just about trade deficits. This is about forcing India to choose sides in the new Cold War between America and Russia, China. The message is clear. You're either with us completely or you're against us. The 50% tariff isn't meant to be permanent. It's meant to be unbearable. It's economic waterboarding designed to make India surrender its independent foreign policy. But here's what's really paying the price. The millions of Indians whose livelihoods depend on exports. The textile worker in Tirupur, the gem cutter in Surat, the shrimp farmer in Andhra Pradesh. These aren't billionaire industrialists who can weather any storm. These are middle-class families who've built their dreams on selling to America. And now they're hostages in a geopolitical chess game they never asked to join. But then, something that nobody expected happened. In mid-September, the temperature started cooling down.
Diplomatic phones started ringing. Backroom conversations began. India's chief economic advisor, V. Anantha Nageswaran, made a stunning prediction that the penalty tariffs might disappear after November 30th. Even more shocking, the reciprocal tariffs could drop from 25% to just 10 to 15%. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal started sounding optimistic, saying talks were moving in the right direction. Suddenly, Indian exporters who were planning factory closures started cautiously hoping again. Stock markets bounced, the rupee strengthened. But here's the trillion-dollar question. Is this genuine peace, or is India walking straight into the most sophisticated economic trap in history? Let me show you both scenarios, because the difference could determine whether India emerges as a global superpower or gets relegated to being America's junior partner forever. The peace scenario, when everything goes right. Imagine this plays out perfectly for India. November 30th comes around, and America actually keeps its word. The penalty tariffs disappear, the reciprocal tariffs drop to 10 to 15%. Indian goods become competitive again. Export orders start flooding back. The textile mills in Tamil Nadu restart their night shifts. Jewelry exporters in Rajasthan see their phones ringing again. Container ships leaving Mumbai and Chennai start filling up. But the real victory isn't just economic, it's strategic. India proves that you can stand up to American pressure and still get a fair deal. Other countries take notice. If India can do it, so can we. India uses this breathing room to accelerate its diversification strategy. While maintaining access to American markets, they double down on European partnerships, expand trade with Southeast Asia, and build new bridges with Africa and Latin America. 5 years later, India's economy is not just bigger, it's more resilient. No single country can hold Indian prosperity hostage ever again. But here's what keeps me up at night. What if this optimistic scenario is exactly what America wants India to believe? The trap scenario, when peace is poison. Here's how the trap could work, and it's diabolically clever. America removes the penalty tariffs as promised. Indian businesses breathe a sigh of relief. But buried in the fine print are conditions that slowly strangle India's sovereignty. Maybe India has to open its agricultural markets to American corn and wheat, destroying millions of Indian farmers. Maybe Indian data has to flow through American servers, compromising digital sovereignty. Maybe India can't buy energy from anyone America disapproves of. The reduced tariffs, 10 to 15%, still make many Indian goods uncompetitive. But now India has given up its negotiating power. The exporters who survived start relocating to Vietnam, Bangladesh, Mexico. India's manufacturing dreams start dying a slow death. Worse, this becomes the template. Europe, Japan, other partners see that America can force India to compromise. They start making their own demands. If you bent for America, why not for us? 5 years later, India is still growing, but it's not the independent powerhouse it dreamed to becoming. It's a large market that does what it's told. The demographic dividend gets wasted. The great Indian economic miracle becomes just another story of potential unfulfilled. So how do we know which scenario we're heading towards? I've identified 5 critical warning signs that will tell us whether India is heading towards peace or walking into a trap. Warning sign number 1, the deadline test. Does America actually remove the penalty tariffs by November 30th? If they delay, make excuses, or attach new conditions, that's trap behavior. Warning sign number 2, the fine print trap. Are the tariff reductions legally binding and unconditional? Or are there hidden clauses that give America veto power over Indian policies? Warning sign number 3, the export reality check. Do Indian export orders actually recover within 3 to 6 months? If tariffs are genuinely reduced, but exports don't bounce back, something else is wrong. Warning sign number 4, the sovereignty test. Does America demand that India change its energy policy, agricultural policy, or digital policy as part of the deal? That's classic trap behavior, trading temporary economic relief for permanent policy surrender. Warning sign number 5, the precedent pattern. Do other countries start making similar demands on India? If this deal encourages more pressure rather than creating respect for Indian sovereignty, it's a trap. And India's leadership isn't naive. They know these risks, but they're betting that they can thread the needle, get economic relief without surrendering strategic autonomy. It's the highest stakes balancing act in modern economic history. If you were advising Prime Minister Modi right now, what would you tell him? Here's the playbook that could turn this gamble into a masterpiece of strategic thinking. Strategy number 1, diversification on steroids. India cannot just hope for American goodwill. While negotiating, they must aggressively expand trade with everyone else. Europe, Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa, Latin America.
Make America realize that Indian prosperity doesn't depend on American permission. Strategy 2, the fortress sectors. Some things are absolutely non-negotiable. Food security, energy security, and digital sovereignty. Draw clear red lines and communicate them publicly. Some things are worth economic pain to protect. Strategy 3, support the vulnerable. The exporters and workers caught in this crossfire need immediate support. Bridge financing, alternative market development, skill retraining. You can't win a trade war by sacrificing your own people. Strategy number 4, the legal shield. Use every international forum available. WTO, bilateral treaties, multilateral agreements. Make any American pressure as legally and diplomatically expensive as possible. Strategy number 5, the transparency weapon. Keep everything public. Let Indian citizens and the world see exactly what demands are being made. Sunlight is the best disinfectant against unreasonable pressure. But here's the real question. Will India's leadership have the courage to walk away if the deal isn't fair? This isn't just about India and America. The entire developing world is watching this poker game, because the outcome will determine the rules of global trade for the next decade. If India successfully stands up to American trade pressure and gets a fair deal, it proves that middle powers don't have to choose between prosperity and sovereignty. Countries like Brazil, Indonesia, South Africa, Vietnam, they're all taking notes. But if India buckles under pressure and accepts unfavorable terms, it sends the opposite message. Economic might makes right. Sovereignty is negotiable. Independence is a luxury only superpowers can afford. For India's young population, the largest youth demographic in human history, this moment will define their future. Will they inherit an India that charts its own course, or an India that prospers only with permission? The demographic dividend that everyone talks about, India's young, educated, ambitious population, will either be channeled into building an independent economic powerhouse or into serving other people's economic interests. And here's something most analysts are missing. This trade dispute is happening just as the global economy is fracturing into competing blocs. America wants countries to choose sides. China offers its own partnership model. Europe wants strategic autonomy. India's choice will influence which model wins: economic interdependence and sovereignty, or economic dependence and security. So where does this leave us? We're watching one of the most important economic negotiations in modern history play out in real time. India is betting that it can get the best of both worlds, access to American markets without surrendering Indian sovereignty. The early signs are cautiously optimistic. Talks are happening. Deadlines are being set. Officials are expressing hope. But hope is not a strategy, and promises are not guarantees. The real test comes on November 30th. Will America actually remove those penalty tariffs? Will the reciprocal tariffs genuinely drop? Will the fine print respect Indian sovereignty? If yes, India wins, not just economically, but strategically. It proves that you can be America's partner without being America's junior partner. If no,
India needs to be ready for economic disruption, but also for the opportunity it creates. Sometimes the most painful pressures force the most important changes. Either way, this crisis is forcing India to become more resilient, more diversified, and more strategic. The India that emerges from this trade dispute, whether through peace or through persistence, will be stronger than the India that entered it. But the path it takes will determine not just Indian prosperity, but the global balance of economic power. And that's the story unfolding right before our eyes. India's big gamble: trade peace or trade trap, economic partnership or economic subordination. Here's what I want you to do. If this deep dive opened your eyes to how global economics really works, if you understand now why this isn't just an India story, but a story about the future of economic sovereignty for every developing nation, smash that like button. And listen, if you want to stay ahead of these global economic shifts that affect everything from your investments to your career opportunities, you need to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Because these aren't just distant policy debates. These are the forces shaping your economic future. Drop a comment below. Do you think India should take the deal, whatever it is, or should it be willing to endure economic pain to maintain sovereignty? And here's the big one. Which Indian sector do you think will be hit hardest if this goes wrong? I read every comment, and your insights often spark ideas for future videos. Thanks for sticking with me through this complex story.